I've learned that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's a quote by Maya Angelou. Today, I'm going to connect you with Karl Schwantes. Karl is a customer experience expert and winner of the Best Experience Award in the My Business Awards 2020. He's also been in the jewellery industry for 26 years. Hello, Karl.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Nice to see you here today, and actually to hear you, because this will probably be a video on my YouTube channel as well. So, Karl, it's really great to connect with you. And as I was saying, the world changed in March 2020. But before we talk about that, I'm interested in your My Business Award and curious. Yeah. I'm always curious about people and what they do and why they do it. And so how did you get into the jewellery industry in the first place, when sometimes someone else is a doctor or a retailer or a trader or like me, a conversation connector? How did you get into the jewelry industry?
Well, I guess the story began, like 60 odd years ago, when my grandfather at the time, pulled my father out of school at the age of about 14 or 15 and said, you really need to learn a trade. And to put a bit of context around this, this was around, my father was born in 1945, which is the end of the Second World War in Germany. And that's where all of that side of the family comes from. So I think having a trade was something that was really important, because it was something that not only could earn you a living, but something you could actually do anywhere in the world, like kind of like cutting hair or being a chef. It was something that you could just do wherever you go. So, for the first part of his working life, I guess he spent the world learning this beautiful craft. And jewelers tend to be a little bit nomadic in nature. They kind of move around a lot, because you can't learn everything you need to know about jewelry from one book. You have to kind of learn from different masters around the world. And so he traveled from South Africa through the Middle East and even into Asia and Japan, honing his skills. But then one day he ended up in Australia, where he started the family business, which was Xenox Jewelers at the time. And my mum always tells the story that, even from a very early age, when I was first born, they used to have me in a bassinet underneath the counters. So I guess you could say that jewelry has always really been in my blood. But there's really, my earliest memories were probably around the age of 6 or 7. And I can distinctly remember walking into my father's workshop and watching him heat up these pieces of metal, like to a hot cherry red, and then, quenching them into the water, which made that kind of a sizzling sound that, made me always think about like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And that was a really magical memory for me. Even the smells now, if I close my eyes, the smells of the oils that he used, I can still smell. And probably from about the age of 14, I was making my first rings. My dad would give me these apprenticeship exercises to do, and making basic rings out of silver. I think like anybody that's grown up in a family business, you do get roped in one way or the other to do some chores, whether it's folding envelopes or doing that sort of thing. So I guess I was always involved in jewelry from a very early age.
It's interesting, isn't it? And, going back a little bit in what you said too, about moving around and being mobile, conversations, I find, do that for you. They let you into different worlds that you might not ever experience, and you learn along from every conversation that you have. And my background as small business, growing up in a small business family, was definitely about stamping brochures and things like that, because my parents sold caravans, and I can remember the caravan show and how important the marketing was, and the customer service angle and whatever. So I can relate to those feelings, those memories of childhood, and the influence that it has on you. So in March 20, we were actually in New Zealand when things went very strange, and came back and suddenly had to turn my business events onto the online platform. What happened to you with the jewellery business in 2020?
Well, just like you, I was actually overseas at the time. In January 2020, I was in Germany visiting my family over there. And, I remember hearing this thing about this COVID thing and thinking, like, it's probably going to blow over in a couple of months. Little did we know how massive the impact is. So Xenox Diamonds is a business that really specializes in engagement, bespoke engagement and wedding ring experiences. And it's more than just the engagement ring for us. It's really the whole experience around it, which is why we won the My Business Awards 2020 for the best experience. Because I'm a whiskey lover. So we actually have a whiskey and champagne bar built into our diamond shop.
Wow.
And we do lots of amazing things around experiences. We hold whiskey and champagne, French champagne nights, and espresso martini nights, all of these sort of things, which I sometimes refer to it as it's kind of like Disneyland for adults. It's really, for me, the happiest place on earth. So I really love what I do. And even though I'm doing something a little bit different now, I'll never not do the jewelry stuff because it's so much fun for me. But in around that time in March 2020, when it really, hit the proverbial fan, we pretty much lost 97% of our revenue almost instantly and almost overnight for about 8 weeks. Everybody that was in that beginning lead flow just stopped. And that's because the government came out and banned weddings, and that's like pretty much what we do. So if you can't get married, what's the point of getting engaged? So everybody that was in the front lead flow kind of stopped. Everybody that we had completed work for, we wanted them to kind of pay for their goods and pick them up, but nobody wanted to go out. So that was a no. And so at that time, it was like almost like a long, dark tunnel with no light at the end. It was like no one knew exactly when this was going to end. Like there was no like, oh, it's okay, it's going to end at June 30 or something like that. We just didn't know. It could have gone on for 6 months. And so like any business owner, like I was probably at the time, maybe a little bit ignorant about where our business was coming from, because it was just coming in on it. There was lots of word of mouth, and I knew maybe anecdotally it was because of this or that, but I never really knew the hard concrete numbers. And so what that 8 weeks really did was give me the time to kind of go through and look at, well, where is our business coming from? Because ultimately, if that's where our business is coming from, that's going to be my first point of call to go and get more business, right? And what I found honestly really quite shocked me. At that time, we were generating a quarter of our business, so 25% of all of our business, which translated to about 173 sales in the previous year, and more than $1 million in top line revenue had come exclusively from our Google reviews. And that was amazing. I didn't know that it was that big. And so I thought, well, isn't that interesting? And the part that really shocked me was that we had done that with a $0 cost ad spend. So no money on Google ads, Facebook ads, ads in the yellow pages of the paper. And when I dug a little bit deeper, I realized that anytime a client said that they had found us because of our Google reviews, generally made a decision faster, they usually spent more, and they didn't care about the competition. And
so how many, can I just ask, how many stores did you have? How is Xenox just one store? Okay, so all this is coming out of your connection with your clients just in one store. So, so as I said earlier, contribution is a really big part of what I'm on about. And wow, the contribution you've made to the lives of those people through their wedding and engagement situations pretty massive. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, we're a 46-year-old second generation family business. So I've got clients who come in with their kids and almost their grandkids now to have jewelry, which is really a beautiful thing. Like they bought rings off my parents, and now they're buying off me, and it's just
a community. It's
an intergenerational connection, and we're really there as not just like a normal jeweler. We see them ourselves as almost like your co-pilot for all of your life happiest moments, from wedding.
And it's your story, isn't it? It's an ongoing traditional story that the ring has always come from this jewelry. Yeah, that's fantastic. So when you found that Google review was such a valuable tool for your business, must have been definitely like a light bulb moment. So what did you do then?
Yeah, well, there have always been people in my circle that have been tapping me on the shoulder and saying, you need to do something more. Like, I mean, we've done many different things over the years. We were a Telstra Business Award finalist. They've actually asked me to be one of their Telstra Business judges. So I've done a lot of things, just in the whole scope of business, development and growth. And this was kind of like I guess the proverbial kick in the pants to actually do something about it. COVID kind of really forced my hand. So I put a couple of posts out on Facebook and sort of said, well, look, if at the time we only had about 500 Google reviews. And I said, look, I've been asked by like a dozen business owners how we generated over 500 Google reviews. If you'd like to know how I did it, just type in Google below. And, people just started typing in Google. It was just crazy. I was just it was one of those things that I guess I just took for granted because we were just doing it, almost like passively and organically. But what I found out is that there are a lot of people out there that just really didn't understand the power of not only Google reviews, but optimizing their Google profile, the Google business profile. And so I started just sort of teaching people. And the first program that I ran, I actually had 20 people in my first program for a revenue of about $25,000 for a program at the time that I hadn't really even created. So that said to me, look, not only is there an interest here, but people are also willing to pay for it. Yes. And then I started teaching it and people started getting the same results that we did. And so for me, that was the universe kind of tapping me in the right direction, saying, you're in your lane. Yes. Now it's just time to keep going there and sharing your experiences and everything that you've done for Xenox with lots of other small business owners. I mean, I have a real empathy and compassion for small business owners. I've once heard that it's being in business is like a walk in the park. If you're thinking about Jurassic Park,
absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. And now you actually have the platinum service because I think people understand, the need for Google reviews and, my business, Your Time Matters does have them, but it's actually quite hard to get them to get them as well. A lot of people are reluctant perhaps to give a review or don't understand how to go about it. So, the way you, apart from creating the experience, which we'll get onto, just actually getting the buy-in from your clients that they want to give you the review.
The truth is that if you have a less than 5 out of 10 conversion ratio, that means from people asked to Google reviews received, then there's something wrong with your systems and processes. At its fundamental level, that's really it all. There's no sort of magic. There's no card up my sleeve. At its simplest form, it's just a series of steps and processes that I guess over the last 5 to 7 years I've really perfected, so that it works in any industry, B2B, B2C, online, offline, bricks and mortar services, products. It doesn't matter. I've done it with every type of industry. And because at the end of the day, what I really believe is that we no longer live in a B2B or B2C world. What we do is we live in a H2H world, which is human to human. And any human, when they want to buy from somebody else, they're going to check you out and Google. And most people know this intuitively because they do it. I was doing a presentation yesterday and I asked the room, I said, how many of you in the last I said, raise your hand if in the last 6 months you have read a review, online. And, everybody puts their hand up. And I said, keep your hand up if in the last 4 weeks you've read a review. It was all but one hand still up, and then keep your hand up if it's in the last, week or so. And still, again, almost everybody's hand is up. So the truth is that there are more and more people every single day reading reviews. So it's logical to assume, therefore, that more and more people every single day are writing reviews as well. So what I've seen is a real shift over the last probably 5 years or so, a real shift in buying behavior of our clients. And, in the old days, for those of you that are listening or watching this, that can remember the days of the yellow pages. Yes. You had to put your ad in. You had to get it in by a certain time, and if you missed the deadline, it was a not happy Jan, and the competitor was going to take your spot, and all of this sort of stuff, and it was really this area of scarcity thinking, and then we transitioned into the digital age, which it was all about clicks throughs, impressions, doing ads. But today, people are becoming so skeptical of ads that most people do not trust the ads that businesses are putting out there. I think the study was about like 84% of consumers don't trust conventional advertising. Okay, because it's your agenda. Like, of course you're going to present yourself in the best possible way.
Yes.
And so what I've seen is this shift to what I call reputation driven marketing, where people are now, like, people are so time poor that
Yes.
they no longer have the time to go out there and interview 3 different businesses, find out if you're going to be good, what's your price, what are you offering, and all that sort of thing. Now they just want to go online. They want to find out who is the best, and that's where I'm going to go. Who's got the most reviews, who can solve my problem, and that's where I'm going to go. And provided, as the business, you don't stuff it up when they come there, they're probably unlikely to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. We've just had some work done at home, and my husband definitely went to the Google reviews, and it was quite a large job, and that's actually what drove his choice. So he didn't actually get a quote from anybody else. He would had a bad experience from another company previously doing a similar job a few years ago, and then when he read the Google reviews, he's just decided this is the company for us to go with.
There's actually a new phenomenon coming out called zero-click searching. And what it is Google has identified a trend. And what they found was that about 44% of people on a desktop and about 83%, I think, on mobile will make a decision to use your business or your company without ever going to your website.
Really?
Yeah, they'll look at what the products and services that you're showing on your Google business profile, and they'll look at your reviews, and they'll go book an appointment, call, whatever it is, without ever going to your website. Because we know that for truth, because it's like the more steps you make someone do, the more people drop off. So it's like, what can you solve my problem? And this is one of the things. So when I run our Google business profile optimization programs, the number one thing that I see missed out almost every single time is the products and services area on their Google profile. And it's so important, particularly because of that these days, is that people want to go, do you offer the products and services that I want? Yes. Okay, great. What are your reviews like? Yes. Okay. Book an appointment or call or whatever. So that's why optimizing your profile, and we've got a framework that we show people how to get into the top 1% of all Google profiles just by going through and systematically optimizing that profile. And when you do that, that accounts for 36% of the SEO. So 36% of the traffic that goes through to your website comes from optimizing this profile, but most people have barely even touched it or claimed it. And the second thing is that 16% of your SEO comes from your Google reviews. So the two things combined, it's like over 50%. And most people are not doing anything with it. And so that's what we started doing, is just teaching people how you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on Facebook or Google ads. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on marketing agencies to go there and manage and do all this stuff. This is stuff that every business owner, and I've taught my 76-year-old mother how to do this. If I can teach her how to do it, I can teach anybody how to do it.
Okay, so that sounds fantastic. And this feels actually like a community service announcement, because I really think that this is a great conversation to be having that just can help so many people. I know with all the people in my business community, they're all trying to drive business, of course, they're service providers and professionals. So, I'm so excited that you're actually going to speak at one of our events in September. But how do you, let's just go back a little bit more, because I'm interested in the story. So tell me about an experience that you created in, or maybe a couple of experiences. I did see one on LinkedIn just recently that get people talking about you on Google reviews. So apart from the whiskey bar, what else?
So I had a client that came and saw me one day. They were looking as a couple, and they were looking for an engagement ring. And sometimes the process happens really quickly for some couples. Sometimes it takes 3 months. Everybody is different. But this couple wanted something particular, so I had to try and source this special diamond for them. Anyway, so I reached out to the partner and said, look, I found the stone that you're looking for. Would you like to come in on Friday and see the stone? And he said, look, Friday is actually my partner's birthday. And I said, oh, well, this would be a really lovely thing to do on your birthday, is to come and look at a diamond. And they basically said, yes, okay, we can come in on our birthday. And I said, well, I'd love to make the appointment extra special. I said to him, I said, look, what is her favorite flower? And he told me at the time that her favorite flower was white peonies. I don't know whether you know the flower, but it's
Yes,
this
I
beautiful
do.
little,
Yes.
He said, but I've looked everywhere. And he said, all I can find, because it was out of season, all I can find is the pink ones, but her favorite is the white. Anyway, so I went out and I started ringing around as many florists as I could find. And finally, I managed to find one florist that had the white peonies. And so I organized for them, a dozen white peonies to come in. We had some champagne on ice for her, the ones that she liked. And so she came in, and inside the flowers, we had a card. And what I actually did is I wrote the card on behalf of her future husband. And, when I'm helping, a lot of business owners think that remarkable experiences just happen. And the truth is they don't. You have to craft them, but you have to do it in a way where you make your client the hero. Now, it would have been very easy, and I see this with a lot of the clients that I coach, where there is this need to put their logo, to take credit for it. But it's really a short-lived thing, So when you do that, when you take yourself out of the equation, you understand it's not about you, it's about them. It makes it so much more magical. So for her, she arrives, the champagne, the white flowers, and, the card they're saying, happy birthday, can't wait to spend my rest of my life with you, love, blah, 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 your partner, husband to be. She looks at him like he's just like the absolute romance god, and,
Yes.
we always let our grooms take the credit, because that's part of the love story there, right? And
Yes.
so, we were there and we were designing this ring, and it was the perfect diamond. And it was just one of those just beautiful experiences, just had her beaming from, ear to ear. But it's the thought that comes behind it. So I often say that the first thing you kind of need is that desire. You have to desire to want to create something remarkable for the person. You have to also be willing to go the extra mile and, go, well, I could have given up after ringing 5 florists, but I didn't. I kept going until I found the one that, I knew she was going to like. And then to be able to craft it in a way that's memorable to the client, not to yourself, and not take any credit for that.
Well, I'm sure that definitely would have got a review, because it would be such a memory. Just even to write the review is a memory. It's like creating a scrapbook moment that they can go back and remember as well. That's fantastic.
The other things that you want to have is surprise and delight elements in the customer journey experience. So in our Google Review Mastery program, one of the things that we're doing is customer journey mapping your client experience. And what we're looking at doing is we're looking at putting in surprise and delight elements. Now, sometimes when I speak to a room, I talk about surprise and delight. People kind of nod a little bit, and then the next question I usually ask them is, do you think that they're the same thing? And most people say yes. And the truth is they're two very different things. And a lot of businesses out there are surprising a client, but not delighting them. And where this epiphany moment to me came in is I had a client that had just recently bought, 2 new Porsches. And I said, wow, that must have been amazing. Like, did they do anything special? And they said, well, they took us to these track days and they invited us to a couple of champagne events. And I said, wow, that would have been fantastic. She said, yeah, but we kind of expected it considering how much we spent with them. And I thought, that's that interesting. Like that. And that was an example of a client being delighted, but not surprised. So there is this phenomenon, which is known as, intermittent delighting, and it's why the pokie machines do really well. Okay. It's because you don't know when the surprise is coming. Okay.
Yes,
and that's why people get so addicted to them. Right. So what I try and show people do is how to build in surprise and delight into the customer journey, where you're delighting a client is really surprised in a way that they wouldn't have thought. And so an example, one of my clients is an obstetrician. And, as an obstetrician, she's, often getting pulled out to go to the hospital, emergencies, which can be quite disruptive for her normal patients, in the practice. And sometimes she's running half an hour, sometimes an hour late. And one of the things that we worked with the front desk was the what we call like the customer delight team is to actually make up these little bags, with little baby stuff in it, stuff that costs, a handful of bucks, $5, $10, really nothing, overly expensive. But, to empower then the team at the front desk to be able to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, the doctor's like, please accept this as a little token of our, appreciation for your patients," and then the client thinks, "Oh, isn't that nice?" Like it's, somebody who is, number one, acknowledging, someone who has empathy, and somebody that's actually trying to remedy the situation.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
they're the three things that I teach people to do, in these customer experience moments. But if I was coaching a dentist client, one of the things that I would do is I would say to get, like, I don't know if you've ever been to like the airport and you see these like really high-end massage chairs.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so like when I'm
relaxing.
When I'm customer journey mapping with a client, and I'm helping them create surprise and delight elements for their business. One of the things that the question that's always going in my mind is, what is an indulgent luxury that we can give the client that they wouldn't normally buy for themselves? And it's like, you solve that sort of problem, it sort of really makes the client light up. So, buying one of those, like, I think they're like $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, those chairs, but you sit in one of them and it's just like, oh my God, it's so relaxing. And, everybody would love one in their house, but very few people do. So, if you're waiting in the dentist thing and, having one of those, I reckon that'd be awesome.
Well, I think that's one of the best things about going to the hairdresser, or for a woman. I don't know if you'd have for a man, but when you're having your hair washed and the chair is a massage chair, it's very pleasant. So, well, I'm really looking forward to you speaking in September. But before we sort of wrap up, when people come to one of my events, often we play cards, but I've just actually created a game called Conversations Count. And so you work around a board game, but you get asked different questions. And if you'd played with us the other night, the question that you might have landed on is, what do you hope to do that you've never done before?
Well, it's funny. I was at an event also just recently on a weekend just gone, and there was a gentleman there called Travis Bell, who's known as the bucket list guy.
Yes.
And it was a really great, thing that he was talking about. And I'd heard him speak before, but he talked about having bucket list items for your individual, also for your significant other, for your family, for your work, and things like that. But one of the things that's always been on my bucket list to do is to fly a helicopter, learn how to fly a helicopter. I spent 10 years in the military as an artillery captain. So I do love the boys' toys, guns and planes and all that sort of stuff. But helicopters have always held a fascination for me. The ability to kind of take off and land anywhere and not needing a runway. So that's one of the things that's on my bucket list to do, is to learn how to fly a helicopter.
Right, fantastic. That's what I love about this game is you asking questions that you may never ask at another time, and the things that have come out. One of my earlier podcast guests wants to live in a lighthouse because they want a 360-degree view of the world. So there you go.
I like that.
So I'll put the details of the 5-star review website in the notes, but I guess you can find it on a Google review as well. Can. And how other ways people could connect with you, Karl?
They can actually connect with me on LinkedIn. So just my first and last name, Karl with a K, and Schwantes, like we were talking before of like Qantas, but it's SCHWANTES. Or you can reach out to me on my website, which is www.my5starreviews.com.au. Or I'm sure just get in touch with you and you'll point them in the right direction.
Absolutely. They'll be in the show notes. And I'm really looking forward to furthering this conversation and sharing your gold tips and platinum ideas with my network, and look forward to talking to you in September. Have you got a quote for me?
Yes, I do. I think it's something that always drives me, and it's, if you always do what you've always done. You'll always get what you've always got. And for me, it's always a constant reminder to be constantly evolving and innovating, to kind of reach new heights and to push myself outside of my comfort zone to try new things.
Absolutely. One of my favorite is feel the fear and do it anyway. So I totally agree with you. Great to talk to you.